In this video, I'll be sharing tips and techniques for utilising Illustrator for laser cutting and laser engraving artwork. For a more in-depth explanation of Illustrator and its tools, we have a previous video shared on the Craft Hub platform. I am working within the Surface Pattern and Textiles department at Swansea College of Art, utilising their range of specialised equipment across their studio for digital design. Illustrator is part of the Adobe Creative Suite, a software application that allows us to create vector artwork. Vector artwork is integral to creating laser cut files, as it provides a path for our laser cutter to follow, whether we are cutting or engraving. There are other softwares that are able to facilitate vector artwork, but for the purposes of this video, I'll be showing you Illustrator. Before we begin, it can be helpful to have an idea of what we'd like to create before we start using our tools. Having references such as your own rough sketches can be really helpful to the design process when working for laser, whether that's rough sketches or finished designs. Using these together with our tools we have available to us, we can start to create something really exciting, ready to take onto our laser. When working to create a design for laser cut, it is best practice to size our artboard to the size of the material that we will be cutting or engraving. This way we can accurately judge scale and composition. I'll be making mine A4 and I'll create my artboard to start. Now that we have our artboard, we can start exploring the basic guidelines for creating artwork for laser software. Whether we want to create a design to cut a material using our laser, or a design that will be engraved onto our material, we have a variety of tools that we can use to start creating artwork, found on the left side of our screen. To give us the best workspace to work with, we can go up here to Window, Workspace, and Essentials Classic, so that all of our tools are in nice, easy to understand areas and are really easily accessible. We've explored previously how versatile the Shape tool is, and how we can use it as a base for creating new shapes by manipulating anchor points. And also how we can manipulate anchors and handles to create new and complex shapes. I'll be using these basic shapes to demonstrate how we format for laser software. To format for laser, we keep our shapes as stroke only. The stroke acts as a line for our laser to follow, but we remove the fill. To remove it, we select our shape and navigate up to the top to our fill square, and we want to select the one that's white with a red line through it, which is labelled None. And that ensures we have no fill on our shape, and we'll do that for both. Now we are left with just our stroke, which will act as that path for the laser to follow. The second key element for designing for laser is distinguishing between cut lines and engrave lines. We can do this by assigning different colours to each option, for example, red for a cut, or green for an engrave. So I'll go up here, select my shape and change this colour to red, as I want this shape to be cut on the laser. And for this shape, I'll come up here and choose green, as I want the laser to engrave this shape. Doing this will keep your designs organised and easily identifiable for the laser to know what we are telling it to do, especially in designs where there's a lot going on and you might want to cut and engrave at the same time. Now that we understand the basics of what's needed for formatting our laser files, we can look a bit deeper into how we develop our artwork and our tools. So we can use the Shape tool to create files for laser cut like this example, which mixes using cut lines and engrave lines shown by the red as the cut and our green as our engrave. And so when we use this on the laser, we'll get a really nice negative and positive effect where our red will be cut away and our green will be engraved into our material. If we are looking to create more complex files, we're also able to use the pen tool to have more freedom over our artwork. So what you can see I've started doing with this file is picking out elements I really like, which is a leaf or a flower and this whole orange blossom plant, and using my pen tool just to trace around these and get the shape and the outline of it. And so when I remove my reference image, just by clicking and deleting it, I'm left with all these separate elements that we can start using and taking and creating a new design with. Here we can see how I've started pulling those motifs together, copying and pasting the same motif out to repeat them across from my original design and trying to recreate that in this new Illustrator format. So I'm just going to be pulling bits in to fill gaps where it seems logical. Adding in bits throughout and creating a really nice composition that I'm happy with. There we go. So once I'm kind of happy with how this is looking, a nice way to visualize how the laser is going to see our design is coming up here to the top and going to View and Outline. And that's going to show us a really, really basic black and white, thin line representation of how the laser is going to interpret our design. And what we can see from this is that I've got separate overlapping elements. So when the laser is going to cut this, it's going to leave little bits, and we're going to end up with lots of random little pieces that are going to be disjointed. I personally want to be able to cut this from the laser cutter and then pull all of this out in one piece. So how we're going to do that is by utilizing the Pathfinder tool. So I'm going to come out of this view by going to View and Preview, coming back over here and selecting all of my artwork. And what we're going to do is join it together. So by clicking and dragging, I select all of the artwork on my page. And over here on the right, we have the Pathfinder tool, which has lots of different tools here. And if we hover over them, it gives us a little explanation of what they all do. But what we're going to use is the Unite tool. And if we click on this with everything selected, it's going to unite everything into one shape. So what that's done is it's deleted all those random overlapping areas and created one giant shape. And if I click and hold, I can move this around as one shape. And when we go back up to view it in outline, we can see that it is all one outline. Coming in close, we can see that we have artwork outside of our artboard at the moment. And what we want to do is constrain that into our A4. And a nice handy way to do this is just by making a rectangle just inside of your artboard, like so. And what we're going to do is send this to the back. So we right click, arrange and send to back, and then selecting everything including that rectangle by just clicking and dragging over everything. We're going to use the Pathfinder tool again, but we're going to use -front. And what that's going to do is get rid of everything around that rectangle, and we're left with a shape that's going to cut exactly within that A4 really, really nicely, and it's not going to confuse our laser. So before we finish, we run a basic series of checks before we save our file and we take it over to the laser. So some key elements to check is that we have kept within the bounds of our material. So this is my A4, everything's within my A4, and same with my other file. I'm checking that there are no overlapping lines that I don't want, and we look all great here, and we've used our view outline function to check that as well, so we're all good. And I'm checking that my colors are correct. So I want to cut all of this, and I don't have any engrave on this one, so that's all great. And then on my other design, I have my cut as my red and my engrave as my green, and they're separated out so the laser knows exactly what to do. And then the last one to check is that there are no open paths. So I can just zoom in, making sure that there are no open paths, because that's going to interfere if we're cutting. The laser's going to leave a gap, and then it's going to be harder to get our material out. And if we have any gaps, just sealing those back up with the pen tool to finalize them. But that's all great, so I'm going to save my file, and they're just saved as basic Illustrator files because that works best for our software. Other softwares may be different, so that's why we recommend doing testing and seeing what works best for you. So I'm going to save a copy as an AI file, and just Illustrator 2020 works for us, and just OK, and there's our file. So we now have files that are ready to be taken onto our laser cutting software and cut onto our materials. Every laser is different, and they'll all have different softwares and interfaces. We're able to upload our AI file to our laser software, format it ready for our material, and send the information to the laser to begin cutting or engraving. Laser cutting itself is an extremely experimental process which changes depending on your material to ensure you get the best possible results. We do this by testing different laser head heights, laser strength and speed. Different materials will require different settings to be able to actually cut through, and engravings can be lighter or heavier depending on your preference. Laser cutting can often just be the first step in the design process, as we can use what we make to create completely new and complex materials. It's always best to go in with a playful mindset and see what you can create as you learn and develop your skills. To explore more videos like these, take a look on the Craft Hub platform.